Hey guys, this is Jonathan. I want to talk to you today about adrenal fatigue. It's a big topic. In fact, I'm probably going to do 2 videos here on it. But it's something that a lot of people struggle with and many times don't even know it. And I'm going to explain why. The adrenals, which are these 2 little glands that sit back here above your kidneys, they release a whole host of hormones that keep balance inside of your system. And if they're not doing their job properly and they start, shutting down or just not functioning as well, you're going to have a whole host of symptoms and eventually death if it's not taken care of and they do completely just shut down. So you might have some of these symptoms and signs. Now I want to read you a little bit. There's a whole bunch of them here, but I just kind of want to go over a few of them here. Number 1, definitely, it's difficult to get up in the morning. And you basically need a crane to pull you out of bed. And you won't even wake up till 10 a.m. Honestly, you'll get up, but you won't be up until 10. You'll usually crash around between 3 and 5 p.m. But you might start feeling better after you eat dinner around 6:30 or so. But you're always feeling tired, maybe lethargic throughout the day. The word refresh doesn't even belong in your vocabulary because you don't even know what it means anymore. You have a craving for salt or salty foods perhaps. Just like everyday tasks just take twice as long or twice as much effort to do it, and you're not as productive. You don't get as many things done as you used to. You have decreased sex drive. You have the inability to handle stress, like the little things start to bother you and you get road rage and you have anxiety and you yell at your kids and you're compulsively eating, and you might turn to smoking or drugs or whatever. You also have slow recovery from illness or an injury or trauma of some sort. You don't get better as quick. Perhaps you feel lightheaded when you stand up quickly, maybe out of a chair or out of bed or something. You suffer from mild depression. You have increased PMS. Your thoughts are fuzzy and less focused, and your memory is not as good. You forget things easier. You have a decreased tolerance. Just people in general just seem to be more irritating than they used to. And the list goes on, but there's a lot of signs. And if you have any of those, it's a signal to you that you might be suffering from some stage of adrenal fatigue, and I want you to know what you can do about it. But first I need to explain to you what's going on in the body. Why are the adrenals shutting down? Basically, it is stress. And when I say stress, I don't know what your mind's going to jump to, but there's a whole range of stresses. It could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be psychological, it could be environmental, and among those the categories just go crazy, and there's a ton of different stresses, and especially in our society today, we're just bombarded by it. But I want you to think about it this way. Let me show you this, and don't laugh at my drawing here, but let's say these are our troops fighting, overseas, right? And for them to be strong, they got to have a whole bunch of supplies here. So we give them food and water. We ship them ammunition, medical supplies, and intel, so they know what's going on around them, right? So they'll be strong. But they're up against a whole lot. They're up against tanks and perhaps some landmines are placed there. They got snipers on them. Perhaps it's bad weather there, really freezing cold or whatever. Rough terrain, they just have a hard time maneuvering. So they got a lot up against them. And there's 2 ways that they can fail here. They can either not get enough supplies and they're too weak to fight, or they're overwhelmed by too much opposition. And the same thing happens with your adrenal glands. Either you're not giving the adrenal glands what they need to function at the high capacity they need to, or there's just too much stress in your life that they simply can't keep up. So, hope that makes sense. Now, what are your adrenal glands doing? They're releasing hormones, basically. They're doing their job to protect you from the stresses of life. And there's quite a few hormones that they release. First of all, they release your adrenaline, your noradrenaline, your epinephrine, norepinephrine, your stimulating hormones that will increase your heart rate and your lung capacity and give you a lot of energy and basically make you Superman for a short period of time. But also shoots out aldosterone, which is like it balances your electrolytes and your body fluids. It also does some other ones like DHEA and others, but cortisol is the number one that we're talking about today. And we talked about before in other films, it's an awakening hormone, but it's a primary stress hormone. It does a lot of other things. It helps to balance the effects of the adrenaline in your system. It also helps to balance your blood sugar levels and helps to fight inflammation and heal your body. So there's a lot of things it does, but it's your primary stress hormone, and that's what we need to be sufficient in order to recover from stress, or to deal with stress and to recover from it. And kind of think of it this way, as the same way the house that you live in would warm up when it gets cold by this little system called like your like you have your thermostat and your relay switch and your furnace that produces heat when it gets cold. It's kind of the same thing that's happening in the body. You have your hypothalamus and your pituitary gland and your adrenals that are working, and this is called the HPA axis that's telling your system to release cortisol. So it's kind of like this. This is your house, which is our body basically. Your thermostat is our hypothalamus up here, and it reacts to the stress. So and it can sense in your house when it gets cold. So it sends down a signal through the relay switch, which is your pituitary gland, which sends its signal down to the furnace, which is your adrenals, and says, dude, we're under a lot of stress, you need to crank out the cortisol. So it shoots out, your house warms up, or in this case, cortisol helps to deal with the stress that's in your life. So absolutely necessary. Your adrenals are doing their job, but they can get shut down very easily, and there's a lot of things that can happen, like we've read about the signs and the symptoms. And if you're suffering from any of those, I want you to watch the next clip too, because I'm going to be going over the different stages of adrenal fatigue, a couple different ways to find out if you really have, like how to get tested for it, and then what are you supposed to do about it? How can you fix it? How can you get rid of adrenal fatigue and be able to enjoy your life again? So check that next video out, and I will see you guys then. See ya.